Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bodacious Rant. You're listening to the ever so awesome Burn and Rye. You know, I'm Rye, obviously, and that's Burn. You know, we're 300 episodes. I don't even know why I'm bothering into this. Over 300 episodes. Anyways, we're talking about a movie that was definitely on the fence on. I was really hopeful for it. A lot more people have been cynical about it because, let's face it, Marvel is very inconsistent post Endgame, and that's unfortunate. I would say actually post COVID, really, because we had Spider-Man Far From Home right after Endgame. That was fine. We had oh my God, what's Shang-Chi? That one was good. So yeah, it's been very hit and miss since then, and this movie is no exception. We are talking about Captain America, New World Order, or is it Brave New World?
Brave New World.
Okay, they changed the title like 50 times, so I don't remember. I apologize.
They did.
I'm mixing them up in my head. Starring Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford as General Thunderbolt Ross, because the original actor William Hurt, he died a few years ago. God rest him. And yeah, so this is a non-spoiler review, so we're not going to get too into it. But if you do like the video, give us that thumbs up, ring the bell for notifications, and of course subscribe. So thank you all for joining us on that one. So yeah, if you have been watching the Marvel shows, especially in the recent years, this is essentially a continuation from Captain America or Falcon and Winter Soldier, essentially. And it also, without spoiling it too much, it does kind of close the loop with the Incredible Hulk movie from 2009, which I can't believe it's already like 16 years old at this point, so that's crazy. But essentially, Sam is, after the events of Eternals as well, where, the Celestial, like, froze in the Indian Ocean. The world is, like, trying to find itself, wrestling for resources. And Captain America is at the forefront trying to navigate this whole political struggle and skirmish. And, yeah. So it's easy to say that Falcon and Winter Soldier was an okay show. It was actually pretty good. It was just the last episode, kind of like the other Marvel shows for the most part, was pretty lackluster. So that's one. Eternals is just a garbage film to begin with, so that's another thing. So this movie, I would say it's not as bad as the critics have been putting it as. Like, for some people to say that this movie is complete garbage or it's the worst the MCU has put out, I would highly disagree with them because it's not that bad. Is it great? Is it especially as great as, Civil War and Winter Soldier? Absolutely not. There's no comparison. But Anthony Mackie is Captain America at this point. I really like him for the role. And Harrison Ford actually filled out the shoes of the late William Hurt, and also as President Ross in this movie. So I really like that. And with all the reshoots plaguing it, the controversy with one of the actors being Israeli or the characters being Israeli and stuff like that. So there's that whole thing with Palestine. Honestly, I think the movie did pretty well with what it had, with considering all the chaos that went with it. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, but it's just not like, I wouldn't say you have to race to the theaters to see it. You could definitely wait for it to be on Disney Plus and stuff. But Bern, what did you think about the movie?
Yeah, not as bad as the ratings would have you believe, but you can definitely see why people feel the way that they do about it. Because this movie is simultaneously entertaining and fun throughout like the very brisk 2 hours that we get from it. But at the same time, it's also a bit of a jumbled mess in a lot of elements of it. I mean, the elements that do work are the ones that you mentioned for sure. Anthony Mackie as Sam is great here. I mean, again, he proves to be a really good lead in these movies. He's very charismatic, very personable, and so that works for this new type of Cap that they're trying to do with Sam taking over the mantle and being more of the people's Cap type of thing. So I do like that they went that route, and his interaction with Danny Ramirez is fun, and again continued from Falcon and the Winter Soldier for people who saw that. So it's cool to see that sort of on the big screen, that dynamic between them two. Again, sort of the way that Steve had with Bucky. You had these two guys, these buddies, going on this adventure together and fighting crime and stuff. And also Carl Lumbly, who plays Isaiah Bradley, was great in this movie. And again, for anyone who has seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he was fantastic in that too. So I'm glad they brought those elements over from that show that really worked here, and they really worked here as well. So I'm glad that they did do that. And of course Harrison Ford. I think I like him more than William Hurt, but I think that's just because he has a little bit more to do in this movie. We got to see him do things, back in the Incredible Hulk, but that's just kind of gotten forgotten, and now we're getting it a little bit more here. But the way that he plays him, as this, very gruff type of person that's trying to change their ways was a very interesting dynamic between him and Cap. So all those elements for me worked. It's a lot of the other stuff in the movie that didn't work for me. It was, as you mentioned, the Ruth character played by Shira Haas, the I can't say who it is, but the villain in this movie didn't really work for me. And Giancarlo Esposito feels like he's wasted in this movie. I'm not really entirely sure why they put him in here. When you get an actor like that, you hope that they would have a big, more prominent role. And here he's just kind of doing what he's been doing lately on a lot of other villain projects, with what we got in The Mandalorian and stuff. It's like, it feels like he's playing the same character now at this point, and in this movie they don't really use him all that well outside of action sequences. So that was a bit disappointing. But I mean, the action sequences, since I'm talking about that, those were pretty fun and dynamic, especially towards the end. So luckily Marvel still has that in their bag. But yeah, it's just when it comes to like the plot and how things sort of come together, it does really feel cobbled together in certain parts where things just sort of happen and we're kind of like running through them, and the only way the movie can sort of explain them is through just like exposition dialogue, which got kind of frustrating. It just felt like the movie didn't feel, or the people didn't, behind the scenes didn't feel like they had a lot of confidence in this story where they had to explain it to the audience through the character and their dialogue. So that was a bit frustrating because I was hoping a little bit more dialogue with like, characters sort of battling in ideologies. I was hoping for something more like that, since that's sort of like the Winter Soldier did. So yeah, it was all those elements that just kind of drug it down for me from being something that could have been pretty good to something that's sort of like middle tier when it comes to like the Marvel stuff.
Yeah, like I said, when I was watching it, I honestly didn't feel like it was slapped together, like, because again, with all the reshoots and stuff, I thought it was going to be way more jumbled and stuff like that. It was pretty seamless, but I do see your criticism that a lot of the characters really had to kind of spell out what was happening, just because it wasn't like the clearest thing. Like I said, it didn't have that smarts that Civil War and Winter Soldier had, so that was kind of disappointing with it. But I will say the action, especially with Anthony Mackie's Captain America, is still on point. You'll definitely have fun with that. That's definitely some of the best like fighting scenes in the movies, in all honesty. And yeah, Harrison Ford, like, he was great, especially when he turned into the Red Hulk, like in the trailers and stuff. That part did not disappoint. It just it's a bummer because there's no other Hulks involved in the movie, just because Disney still does not have the rights to Hulks. That's still with Universal, which doesn't make sense to me, but that's still a thing. So yeah, and then everybody else kind of fell by the wayside, except for like how you mentioned the guy who played Isaiah Bradley, the Falcon, which was Danny Ramirez's character, and yeah, just the President Ross. Everybody else was just there, and you didn't really think about it. Giancarlo Esposito was definitely one of those ones, like, you could have gotten anyone else for that role, it would be fine, but the fact that you got such a big name actor for like such a small thing, like a plot device, is like, why? What was the point of that? With all that being said, I'm gonna give this movie a 3 out of 5. Thankfully, just because I did not know what to expect in this one. I was kind of leaning towards this gonna be pretty bad, but I'm glad I was surprised and I enjoyed it. So I would recommend it for like a $5 Tuesday if you do want to catch in theaters. It was filmed in IMAX, which actually had a really cool thing at my AMC where they did a Fantastic Four themed IMAX and stuff like that with the trailers. So I thought that was cool. But other than that, completely up to you guys. Back to you, Bern. What would you give this movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would probably also go 3 out of 5. Honestly, maybe like the more I think about it, it might drop down to a 2. But just in terms of just like going to the movies and enjoying myself, it's still an enjoyable movie. You still have these characters that are really fun, and they're fun when they interact with each other. The action sequences are a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, you're not gonna go over into the theater and like not enjoy your time watching it. It's just when you think about it, it's when things start to get frustrating. And also for me, I should also shout out that I didn't really like the score for this movie. And that was pretty disappointing. Where it felt like, I mean, no disrespect to the composer Laura Cartman. I just felt like there were times where the movie, the things that were happening in the scene clashed with the music that was playing at the time, and that was very frustrating, and it very took me out of the movie a few times. It was also disappointing that it didn't bring back Henry Jackman to do this score, who did the score for the Captain America movies, and he did the score for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's frustrating when Marvel has these really cool character themes, like they introduced in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and they don't use them for the characters throughout any of their other movies. So that was really annoying. Probably one of those things that I'm the only one that's gonna catch. But yeah, I was a little bit frustrated where I was like, man, Sam's had such a cool theme in that show, and they don't use any of it in this movie. And on top of that, all the other music in this movie just feels kind of oddly placed and tonally different than things that are happening on the screen. So that took me out of it as well. So yeah, 3 out of 5 for my enjoyment, maybe more so a 2 out of 5 than that. But if you go check it out on a matinee, or like you said, $5 Tuesday, you'll go in, you'll have a fun enough time, and you'll leave and probably not think about it. And which is a disappointment on its own, but in terms of Marvel stuff lately, that's kind of as best as you can hope for, and anything more than that is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, like with everything that you like, your criticisms and everything we've talked about, I would expect this from any other studio, but again, Marvel's been very inconsistent the last several years, so it's hopefully this kind of will be the last inconsistent thing they do. We do got Thunderbolts coming out, Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four looks amazing, and I know you in our private conversations you said there's been good feedback with the Thunderbolts, so the trailers definitely don't show that for me, but hopefully we'll be wrong. Yeah, so at least Marvel's kind of going back to full swing. So for those of you who did happen to catch it this weekend, please let us know what you thought. Did you see it in IMAX, regular? Did you hate it? Did you like it? What was your favorite part? Please let us know in the comments without spoiling it too much. And until next time, everyone, stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.